Welcome to X's and O's with LeRoy Butler. We've got a lot of stuff to look at. I got a whole page full of plays that we looked at that we could use any one of them. I might get confused. There's so many of them. These are all running plays that the Packers did not play well on defense. And we're going to start with this one, a Matt Forte run right up the gut. And as you see, the Packers are in what's basically a four-man front. I believe they were in a nickel. I think they had a couple corners out here. But anyway, we're going to focus on these two guys right here in the middle. And what you get in this play is some kind of it's almost a trapping action, but you're going to get the tight end. This is Martellus Bennett coming in to block. He wants to block A.J. Hawk. And then this guy is kind of a key, and so is Ja'Marr Lattimore. So why don't you show us kind of what happens?
And basically, if you're Jay Cutler, this is what you want, because look at the splits in here. Look at that area right there. So you're saying we got the right front for it. Nobody over the nose. If they had a guy over the nose, it'd be different. But they don't block Julius Peppers, so he's out of the play, really. So now it's designed for 67 just to go up to Lattimore. And the reason why Lattimore is in red is because he has this A gap. Now you got a guy in this B gap, so he needs to stay in that A gap. But for some reason, when this action starts, and basically what Forte does is like a little hop step, and Jay gives it to him, and he starts this action here, he just kind of goes in there. And when he goes in there, it's an easy block for 67. Because when he got to this level, he was like, whoa, the guy almost blocked himself for me. Now here comes A.J. Hawk coming over here like this, and 88 got a good block on him. And now this ball comes screaming up there for like a 17-yard gain. But you got a free man over here. So that ball he got to stay in the A gap. Everybody stay in that gap. Now Morgan Burnett should make that play for maybe 3 yards, not 17. And that's the only problem with this front.
Well, and what happens here is, so these two guys get too close.
Yeah, they both was next to each other.
Yeah, and this guy's block ends up pretty much taking out both of them, and then Bennett kind of finishes them off. But it creates this enormous gap, and if he just stays here, and even if he just takes this guy on here, is what you're saying, is then he probably has to bounce it even farther. He has to
go to Morgan Burnett. But now Morgan Burnett can see it clearly. He can step up and make that play.
Instead, there's this lane right
It's a huge lane in there.
That he can't
and
get
he makes
to.
a tackle down here instead.
So we're talking about taking the right step. This defense, even though there's this big gap, it would have worked.
It would have worked. Against that trap, it would have worked and held it to 1 to 3 yards, depending on how aggressive your 8-man front. My thing is, once the quarterback gets into his cadence, don't even disguise. Get on up in there. Because they only got less than 20 seconds to get it off. Get on up in there and show it.
Right. Now we're going to show you a similar play. Again, they're in 4-3. And this time we're going to talk about Clinton Dix, another inexperienced guy like Lattimore, who needs to play this with some instinct, and his instinct fails him here. So they've got the Bears come in with a heavy formation. Lattimore's here. They end up getting 17 there and 15 here. 38's over here. So this time the action is a little bit different, but the concept's the same. This time, you liked what Julius Peppers did. He came in.
Oh, he did a fantastic job.
And just ran with the lineman.
He just stayed in his gap.
They got the block there, Now, everything that happened really happened here. So
you got Alshon Jeffries, linebacker. He just had a scoop block to cut him off.
And Lattimore might have played that a little more aggressively. But he's just trying to cut off everything in here, And instead of, why don't you show us what Clinton Dix did?
Marshall comes through here to go search out Clinton Dix. Stay in there and make the play. But he jumped outside, and now Forte goes right in that hole. Now you got a free man out here. What should happen is once Marshall comes to get Clinton Dix, he has to stay inside and just manhandle and make that ball bounce out to 38, who has nobody on it. I mean, no one blocked.
Right.
That's the whole concept. I remember Ed Donatel used to tell me, if a receiver is trying to block you, don't go over the top. Stay underneath. Your cornerback will come up and make the play because he's unblocked. And I think that's the way. But Tremont got a little confused, like, wait a minute.
Well, it's the whole.
What's going on here?
It's the whole concept of help, and his help
Right.
is right here.
Know where your help is.
So if you're going to take your guy to the help, then you're probably opening up
Another lane.
right here.
Right.
But if you come here, then he has to bounce it to your help.
Right. That's a great concept.
And, that's...
So again, if
is
you're
that
Don
our-
Capers, you're drawing up the right defense.
In that case...
You got to execute it, and you got to tell your rookie, when a receiver blocks you, stay inside. Stay inside, because if you jump outside, you're creating two holes now.
Right.
Stay inside, let the cornerback go out there and make that play.
Yep. And next we're going to show you another kind of rookie mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, on this play, the lesson here is that don't play your gap incorrectly and you'll get pulled from the game.
Yes.
That's exactly what happened
you'll get
here.
the yank.
So the Packers, they were resting Clay Mathers, being careful with his groin, and they gave Sam Barrington a chance to play some snaps in the middle and had Lattimore spread out in other places. So in this particular play, it's a trap play. And once again, it's about your help and directing guys to certain spots. So basically what we have here is a trap block on Mike Daniels and this guy coming out. And then this guy helps here. And why don't you explain the steps? And this is a play for these two guys to make,
Yeah,
correct?
because again, they got to be in unison. I remember A.J. Hawker used to Lattimore or Brad Jones. Now, used to play a lot of snaps here with Barrington. Now, the concept of these trap plays that they're going to, I think they'll see it the rest of the year, is they never block the defensive end. So they're never going to be a factor because they're so wide anyway. So it's between the linebacker and the guard, the two guards inside. Now, these particular guys they're going to be taught to go at one guy, but it depends on if you take a false step here and here, what makes the difference in these particular plays. Now, what Barrington did, all he has to do is just stay in his B gap. Just stay in his B gap. So
Right.
if this guy just comes up and go at you, right? You got to keep your outside arm free. But what he did is looked inside. When he looked inside, there he took a false step and looked inside. So when the guy led up on him, it created a big hole right there for Forte. So all he has to do is attack, Tom. Just attack that blocker. If it's 67 or if it's 64. If 67 goes to A.J. Hawk, once you see him cross your face, you step up in your gap. But 64 was able to come around and stalemate him right there.
And what the big point to this was because 67 had to block Guyon because this guy was trapping.
Right.
Long was trapping there. So your point is especially that A.J. Hawk is right here.
Right.
You don't need to go inside.
You have no reason
This
to do
is
that.
where your help is. This
Yeah.
is if you just stay here, you force him right into there's a safety or someone over there.
See your alignment, your assignment, and then you got to execute. His alignment was pretty good, but what the execution is, I got to keep my outside arm free when I step up to take those big linemen on and just make sure I can see, because he's a shorter guy. So you got one of these big, 6'6" linemen in front of him, you really can't see. Now this back has a two-way go, and you're off to the races.
Yeah.
You're going to see these same trap plays when you play Minnesota, and probably the rest, especially when you play Carolina later in the year. October, I think it's October the 19th. You're going to see a lot of these plays. So I think for the most part, if the Packers, they're going to make some adjustments. I think they'll cut down the depth of their linebackers. They may be a little bit too deep. And they may run more games inside to disrupt these traps.
Yeah, I think whatever they were doing with their splits, and we'll try to find that out from Dom Capers on Tuesday, they were counting on their linebackers kind of making up for it. And I'm not sure what the strategy was there, but if they're not going to, play it, see what they're supposed to see, then it's not worth it.
That would help if they bring these guys in a little bit, because at one point, I mean, Matthews was so wide, the tackle, they never even blocked him.
Yeah.
And I know what these guys thinking. They're wide enough, they can get a good angle at rushing the passer. But remember, teams are not interested in passing. They're interested in running the football if you're that wide.
We did see one formation or a defensive alignment where Matthews was out here.
Right.
Mike Daniels was here. Guyon was way over here. And then Neal was way over here. And it was 50 and 57.
Right.
And again, the problem was that you thought that Hawk was not aligned quite the way he should have, and probably, took a little bit of an outside when he had to protect the middle.
Right.
So
I think a lot of that is true. Based on, I was always taught, if you're in the middle, the guards will take you to the play. Be patient, and the guards will take you to the play. But when you get in these inside traps, one false step can cause your play to be out of the box.
Yeah.
And then if you're too wide on this side and one false step here, now the ball can hit there. So if they get to this 4-3, now I will say this, if you're in your 3-4 scheme, you got 5 guys up there, not many traps happen to where it's successful because you got a guy over the nose and a guy over the tackle, and you got 2 outside guys and 2 middle linebackers. And you can see the guards because they're uncovered.
Right. But they couldn't
easy.
play 3-4 because they played 3 wide receivers,
They
and you
spread
got to
them out.
cover Marshall and Jeffrey and Bennett. You have to have pass defense to cover them. So good game plan by the Bears.
Absolutely.
Not very good execution by the Packers.
No, and I'm assuming, again, I'm going to give them a sort of a pass. They're learning, seems like 3 different defenses all on the run. I think they'll get better.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and we will be back after the Minnesota game. Good. See you next week.